Wrong hat. That's better. All right, we're talking about the home feature in Notion, and there are a lot of other videos where you can learn about home, and Notion even provides a lot of resources for learning it. So I'm actually not going to talk about that in this video. I want to give you some of my just initial reactions and initial thoughts from kind of a power user perspective on building in Notion. Now, I don't want these to be taken as just raw criticisms. These are my thoughts. I think Notion has released the first version of Home, and so there's a lot more that we can expect. But I do talk about some of the things that I want to see improved in the Home tab, and also currently with its current situation and its current limitations, how you can still use things like my perspectives method and even my PersonalOS in Notion to have what I think is more of a robust option in Notion currently. So we're going to talk a little bit about Home, mostly just my thoughts, and let me know what you think. Let me know if you use the Home feature or if you prefer something else. We're going to get a little deep. We're going to get a little philosophical on software in this video, but here are my initial and just raw reactive thoughts on the Notion Home tab. Let's get into it. Notion has just released the new home feature and everyone's talking about it. So if you have it enabled on your workspace, you'll have this little home tab over here featured with the hotkey, looks like Command Control H. And as far as I know, currently the rollout is available for multi-member workspaces, and I believe business or higher, although you never know with these kind of rollouts. You may have it, you may not, but they are rolling it out to certain people before others, and eventually everyone will have it. So if you don't have it currently, you might have to wait for it, but also don't be surprised. They are doing a rollout over time. So this home feature is Notion's attempt to give especially new users, but non-power users of Notion, kind of a one place to manage everything without having to set up, a bunch of different dashboards like a lot of us enjoy doing. This home feature really just has these widgets on it that are kind of pre-set up and supposed to be very intuitive and easy to use and understand. And you can determine which ones show over on this menu in the top right, show hide widgets. And we have greeting, which is this greeting up here, the My Tasks, which we'll talk about, learn, and then featured templates. And it also doesn't even, it looks like the suggested for you is not able to even be hidden. So kind of interesting. One thing I would like to see, I'll be interested in how this develops, on if these widgets, on if more widgets will become available, how hard-coded those widgets will be, if we just have to stick to the ones that they give us, or if we'll be able to define our own widgets, how flexible it will be, if we can rearrange the widgets. I think the widget approach is an interesting one. I think it's pretty concrete right now. It's pretty hard-coded. There's not a whole lot of flexibility, and as a power user, as a builder who likes to make my own things, I can basically make my own homepage myself and actually give myself a lot more features and flexibility. Really, the highlight feature that comes with Home, and the one thing that you can't do on your own without using Home, is this My Tasks feature, which allows you to aggregate multiple databases into one single database, as long as they have the required properties, which in the My Tasks is the assignee, the status, and the due date. You have to have that, and you can turn any database into a task database, specifically what Notion knows is a task database by having those properties and turning it on, and then it will aggregate into this My Tasks widget, which is, I think, a great start to a feature that people have been requesting for a long time, which is the ability to have different permissions for the same types of items. So up until now, most people have been requesting granular permissions on a database level. So what they really want is one database, the master database, which is a very good practice, and they want to be able to set the permissions so that one person doesn't have to be able to see the entire database in order to see the things that are just for them. So with clients especially, you may want to give your clients the tasks assigned to them, but not let them see the tasks assigned to other people, or internal tasks, or internal information about a project, or other clients' projects, the list goes on. What you want to do is keep those things kind of walled off from those people. And up until now, people have been wanting to do it on a one database level, which is what seemed intuitive. And instead, Notion has taken kind of a different route and is now allowing us to aggregate multiple separate databases into a singular view. And I think this may be the start to something really interesting that may still give us the feature that we want, which is managing these multiple databases and multiple permissions, really these buckets of permissions, while still allowing us to see everything in one spot. It's just a different take. And what this would actually solve is property overwhelm as well. So between different clients or different projects or different tasks, whatever it is, you may have properties that only apply to certain individuals or certain teams. And with one database, you end up sometimes having to create multiple status properties for the different teams that status their projects differently. This is actually something that we have to do with clients at scale. We try to be really intentional about it, but a lot of teams just status projects differently, but we really want to keep those projects in one global database. So what we end up doing is creating multiple statuses. In this case, what we may end up being able to do, in the case that maybe this evolves into including projects, is be able to create the different project databases for each of the different teams, even allow them a little bit more autonomy in how they create those databases with the different properties and statuses and all that stuff, because they can now adjust that for their own sake without worrying about it affecting other people, which is why we typically lock it down. We don't want somebody to make a decision that only impacts them while it also has consequences for other people. So I think this is a future that may end up being really helpful if we start seeing this ability for more things besides my tasks. However, I think my initial reactions to this and my initial hesitations towards this approach is what it feels like currently in Notion is that we're getting these really hard-coded features. And this My Tasks one is very solid, it's very rigid. It goes, in my opinion, against the philosophy that has really captivated most people in Notion, whether they know it or not, which is the ability to create software and systems for their process and not have to be forced to mold their process to the system that the software provides. That's a lot of words. What I mean is that up until Notion, every software that you use, you have to learn how the software works, and then you have to fit whatever you do to however the software is opinionated on how you should do that process. With Notion, we're able to create our own system for our own process. And I think the problem is that a lot of people actually don't know their own process. They don't have their process figured out. And software up until this point has been kind of almost like a crutch for telling them how to do their own business. And there's benefit to that because we're too busy, doing the business that we enjoy or working on other things. But at the end of the day, your business is your processes. And when you all use the same software, you're all kind of, you lose your competitive advantage. And so Notion really transformed the landscape by allowing us to create our own software for our own process. Now, the home feature, where that comes into play, is going against that. And so I hope to see this evolve. I hope to see more widgets. I hope to see more flexibility. I hope to be able to take this My Tasks, and instead of it being, this ability to aggregate databases together, I hope to be able to take this outside of the home feature and put it elsewhere. And that would be super powerful and unlock a lot of features, especially for companies at scale. But right now, as it stands, and I understand it's just released, it's actually still being released, so we may not see some of these features come out yet, but I don't know where the future is. I don't know where the roadmap is heading, so I don't know where this is going. So currently, it feels really rigid to me, and I would like to see this turn into a more general approach rather than a specific approach. So fingers crossed that Notion's approach is to start with the very specific rigid approach and then turn it general. But the software of Notion up until this point has been very general focused in the features. For example, the blocks, you have blocks. It's a very general approach. It's not opinionated on how you project manage. It didn't have a projects database built in. You had to make your own projects database. And we're seeing, I think, a lean towards providing those kind of concrete already baked in things which provide the workflow in the system for exactly that process, but they don't have as much flexibility as if you were to build it yourself. Another place that I see this happening in is, I think, one, the Sprints database. Currently, it's still, you can't make your own Sprints database. You have to use the Sprints database that is provided in the Notion template. And so for people that already have their projects and tasks built into their system, pulling in that Sprints database was just going to be a lot of work, and a lot of people didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. And there's a lot of baked in things that I just wasn't sure why we went that way, when I would much prefer to have the features given to me so that I can choose whether to build it in or not, like Legos. I want the Legos and I want to build my own thing. I don't want the pre-built action figure or the pre-built model car, right? Another area I see this in is actually the status property. The status property is super helpful. I think I still use it a lot. I think it's great, but it's very opinionated towards project management. And you might say, well, duh, that's what it's for, and that's what most people should use it for. But the more general approach would be to provide us the ability to group the select property or something like that. We were able to do statuses before the status property ever came out by using the select property. And at the fundamental level, what the status property gave us was the grouping feature. And so all of these options that you have will be grouped into 3 groups, and they're all project management focused. It's to do, in progress, and complete. And you're not able to add any more. You're not even able to rename those groups. And that really locks you into this 3-stage option for statusing. Whereas if we were able to define our own groups and assign them for the select property, maybe we have 2 groups, maybe we have 10 groups. But building in that Notion understanding of what a group is and being able to assign those ourselves, I think would have unlocked so many more opportunities for building in workflows for that fundamental idea of creating software for our process, not the other way around. That, I think, is what is compelling about Notion. And that's why I think so many people got into it in the first place. And now we're kind of hitting that wall where people aren't, quite willing to put in the work to understand how the tool works. And they're just looking for an easy kind of, give me something, that system. I don't want to think about it myself. And so we're kind of feeling that tug of war right now, where Notion is trying to figure out the best way to give people a great first experience and give them something that actually helps them do their work better, right? And not just expect them to learn how to build software using their software. And I know that was a pivotal moment in Notion's growth, was when they realized that people don't wake up wanting to build software. They wake up wanting to do their work better. And Notion has always provided the tools to be able to build your own way of doing your work better. And I think we're at that point where now some people just don't even want to build it themselves. They're kind of looking for something already pre-built. And in the grand scheme of things, I think, and I hope that they would, be able to build their own, or that's where templates should come into play. Maybe more plug and play templates could solve this issue. Right now, a lot of templates rely on related databases. And once you have that system built, there's no way to really plug and play new databases into that without having to really get into the weeds. But otherwise, pre-building in these systems is really the job of other software. Notion is built for being able to build your own software system for your process. But again, a lot of times that starts with understanding your own process, or even putting in the time and effort to care about figuring out what your process is and then how to build a system that supports it. And I understand that can be a tall task. Not a lot of people have the time or the patience, or sometimes even the skill for it, and that's totally fine. And that's where I have a job as a consultant, doing Notion workspaces for people. But again, I think we're in a bit of a tug of war right now between the easiest way to get people a system that helps them do their work and giving them the general pieces to build their own system. So that's where the home feature comes in. And I think that's the compromise that we're seeing right now with the home feature, is trying to give people that quick ability to manage some of these things. But I'd really love to see it evolve into more general approach. So I understand I'm a power user. Maybe I'm a secondary thought, but keep me as a secondary thought. Take care of the primary things, and then don't forget about me. Make sure you cover those people that need something for their work, and then how can you evolve it in an intuitive way to give me some better building blocks to build my own systems? Because I guarantee that we as the creator community can come up with some amazing software using Notion. We can come up with some amazing tools to support some really unique workflows if we had the general pieces, but right now we don't. And so the innovation in the creator community is going to have to wait on some of those more general feature updates in Notion. But I do think that 2024 is going to be an awesome year. We'll see what happens, but a lot of updates have just silently been brought into Notion. We're seeing Notion Calendar. I think there's going to be some other apps actually added into the Notion ecosystem. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see what needs to come to Notion to support that multi-app ecosystem. But we'd love to see, again, some more features for the power users. So let's talk about how we can actually create a system that I think currently is still more robust than the home feature, minus the ability to aggregate tasks on the My Tasks view. So again, you're not able to take this view anywhere else. And so even if you have your own dashboard where you're managing projects and things like that, I mean, fundamentally, you still have to go to two different places. And that's not the whole point of creating a dashboard. The dashboard is so that you can just stick to one spot. And so I still think that currently the perspectives methodology can do a lot more than the home feature. And I'll just show you real quick what that looks like. And if you're interested in the perspectives method, you can see some of my previous videos. In fact, check out the PersonalOS one, which I think the PersonalOS is more robust than the home feature currently. Again, this is doing a lot for you, but the PersonalOS allows you to see My Tasks, but it also allows you to see, your projects and your files and your notes and your meetings and all those things. So this is the PersonalOS, and imagine this as your home. In fact, I can favorite it up here, and now it just shows up. So in this one, I have a lot of flexibility. I can create new perspectives and expand it as needed. But currently, I've got my projects and then my tasks. This is essentially, acting as my tasks. But what the home feature can do is aggregate multiple task databases, and a lot of people will find this useful in a company context when they're dealing with the global task database for their company, but then they also have their own private tasks that they want to kind of bring into one place. And with My Tasks, you can add as many task databases as you want. I'm not going to really show you how to build out the home tab because I think a lot of people have already done it, and that's great. You can go see their stuff. What I want to show you is how, specifically if you're interested in perspectives and you've been following along, or maybe you're new to it and you're interested in maybe seeing what the other alternatives are, is to how you can basically do what the home feature does, but using perspectives. And the way I would do that is using this global task database. We've got the My Tasks, and this task database is a global database that my entire workspace has access to. And so it's not just mine. And so what I want to do is show you how I would work in my own private tasks. And it's basically the same as the My Secret Notes. If you haven't seen this template yet, go back to that PersonalOS video where I show you all about it. But the My Tasks, basically what I want to do is just give myself the ability to see not only this database, but my private one. And in the case of making up for the lack of the Notion feature of being able to aggregate task databases outside of the home feature, or even split a database in terms of permissions, what we do is we just make up for it with the best UI and UX possible. So if there's a lack in features, how can we build in such a way that that barrier seems to go away or get really diminished, so that it doesn't really feel like much friction to be able to work with both of those things. So what I mean is, this is the global task database, and then essentially, I just want to pull in a private task database. So I have Josh Red's private tasks, and it lives in the private section. So nobody else has access to this except for me. Nobody else will be able to see it. So all I want to do is copy the link to this by pressing Command L, or coming up here and pressing copy link. I'm going to go back to that PersonalOS, my Josh OS. And then I have a couple of options. This is kind of up to preference, but let's say I just want to put it on the My Tasks page, perspective. I can put it as a separate linked view right under the current one. And so now I'm seeing my private tasks. Nobody else will be able to see this, just me, but everyone else will be able to see this one. So I could do that. Or I could just pull it in as a tab, and I could go find my Josh Red's private tasks. So I've got a private tasks tab right here. So that's another option. Or a final option would be to create another perspective just for my private tasks. And so I could do a new perspective, my private tasks. Maybe we reorder it up here. And then I just put the linked view in here. And so essentially I'm still not able to do what home does, but what I'm doing is making up for it with UI and UX. So I can go to my tasks and now I can manage multiple task databases in one spot. And frankly, I would much rather use this. And maybe some of you are thinking that I'm super biased because I made this. Of course I am. But until I find something that's better, I'm gonna keep using what I think is the best. What I'm missing is the kind of AI enabled features like suggested for you or trending. These are still interesting. I think this is a decent like dashboard for coming to see these kind of things. Or if you're interested in the templates or learning, this is almost like just more of a Notion about the software dashboard that I like. But again, the My Tasks is still supposed to be useful for most people, and I think it could be. Recently visited, these are widgets that I don't have access to. And again, maybe another option for Notion is kind of building in this feature ability of widgets, or maybe they just define what these are, the recently visited. It's not a database, we're not building a database and using the linked views. So this is kind of an unknown concept in terms of building in Notion, but maybe, they include the ability to /command add a widget and add something like recently visited, where you have no control. There are no filters and sorts, but if people do find this useful, give me the ability to add this somewhere else, like the PersonalOS. It'd be great if on JoshOS I was able to add in that widget. And I think it's supposed to be dynamic so that the person who's looking at it is only seeing the recent pages that they went to. So, if somebody else came to my OS, what would they see there? It might be confusing if they're seeing their recent pages and not mine while they're in my OS. There's some little things to figure out, of course. But I do think that I'd love to have the ability to work with these tools. Right now I can't. I just kind of have to accept them as is. Hopefully this kind of highlights the differences between home and who it might be useful for. And if you're more inclined to have more customization, the PersonalOS, I do think currently with the current features of home, I'm still going to be using this PersonalOS. And if I have private tasks, I'm just going to work them in to the My Tasks perspective. And again, I still can in one place deal with other things besides tasks like projects and files and meetings and ideas. I still feel like I'm in my own personal dashboard in this case, rather than in home. I can only go here for tasks. If I want to, go somewhere else and manage my projects, I can't do it here. I got to go somewhere else. So I do think that we should be looking forward to some more updates to this home feature. Hopefully this video is helpful in highlighting like where it might be useful and maybe where it might fall short for you and what features you might be looking forward to. I do think that the ability to aggregate separate databases, and you can see this source property kind of sourcing the data. This is signaling to me that maybe we're getting the foundation for aggregating multiple databases. In fact, I'm not a developer, but it feels like that's becoming a reality or possible. And I would love to see that opened up and made available to the builders so that we can build our own systems. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you're using the home feature. I'm very open to hearing how other people are using it, and I'd love to hear it. Or if you're using the PersonalOS, which one you prefer, let me know, and we'll see you in the next video.
What do you think about the Notion Home tab as it is currently, and what would you like to see it develop into? Do you find it
easier to kind of jump in and get your work done using the Home tab? Or are you the kind of person that would rather maybe build it yourself to use the PersonalOS? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Definitely leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. And of course, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you in the next video. Oh, shoot.